If you want to start seeing more growth in your business in 2024, you've got to stop making emotional-based decisions and more data-driven ones. And that starts with getting clear on two things. Hey, I'm Sue Minsky, and today's episode of the Swears and Does Care podcast is all about how to make more data-driven decisions and less emotionally based ones. Now, we are just 20 days from the new year, and engagement season is officially here. It is time to use the slow time of year away from being in the thick of weddings to level up your marketing, your admin, and your website. Head to today's description box to download my free engagement seasoned checklist, where I give you a literal list of things to check off over the next few weeks to go through and level up your business, where you should be spending your downtime so that you are not putting too much time into your business and can focus on the holidays, but you're also making little micro decisions, little micro levels up and upgrades in your business so that you're going to see a smoother booking process. You're going to see better quality inquiries, and you're going to have a more successful 2024 and 2025. Because don't forget, a lot of people that are getting engaged right now aren't necessarily going to be getting married in 2024. You want to set yourself up now for 2025, regardless of how booked or unbooked you are for 2024. You really want to make sure that you are focusing on 2025. So making these little changes now will help you years down the road to see better levels of success. Now, every November in my business, I used to have an emotional meltdown. I'd spend all of October booked, busy, and bordering on burnout. And then the holiday rush would hit. Brides would get really busy and inquiries would plummet. I'd go from go, 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 almost full stop for about 6 weeks of just like nothing. Okay. And emotionally, I would really crash. Now, if you follow me on my Instagram stories, you know I posted a few weeks ago about how the holiday times are just always a really rough time of year for me. Anyways, my mother passed away when I was younger, the day before New Year's on December 30th. So the whole month of December has always just been really heavy for me. So when I would go from being like super busy in the fall, and October was crazy, and I was never spending any time with my friends and my family, and then November would hit and I'd be like, oh my God, okay, finally I have some time to like kind of calm down and try and recenter myself. I would still get some little bit of inquiries and stuff in there. But then Thanksgiving would kind of hit, and suddenly everybody was like, oh shit, I have all of these things to do for the holidays, and December would just be dead. And so it was so much harder emotionally for me because I'm already in my head and in my feelings about all these other things. And now my business feels like it's dying. You know, the year is winding down. I'm taking a look at what I have booked for the next year. And in October, I might have been like, yes, I feel really good. I have all of these bookings for next year or whatever. And if I didn't continue to have that same level of momentum, if things would slow down, it was like some weird trigger in my brain. And I would suddenly be feeling like, oh my God, I suck. Nobody likes me. I'm a failure. I'm not going to be booked out next year. And even though I did weddings for 16 years, every Thanksgiving through New Year's, that like 6 weeks or so, I would just be convinced every year that I had done something somewhere, that there was some review that I was missing, that people were like, oh my God, she's horrible. Don't hire her. Or I used to make the big mistake of raising my prices once a year. And so I would do a price increase right around November. And then suddenly everything would become crickets. And I would be like, fuck, I put them too high. And I would second guess myself. And I know a lot of people make that same mistake because they're like, oh, okay, so my prices for 2024 are going to go up before 2024 happens. When you're not even really thinking that, okay, you've been booking weddings for 2024 for most of 2023. So why didn't you raise your prices then? Guys, it has nothing to do with your prices. It's the time of year. Everybody is busy doing other things. There's going to be a flood of inquiries that are coming in January. So don't like raise your rates in November for the following year. You're only doing it for like half of the 2024 weddings. Okay. And you're going to be starting booking 2025 weddings. All right. So raising your rates at this time of year, not always necessarily the smartest business decision. If you've ever watched the videos for my ultimate pricing guide, you'll know I talk about how to do consistent price increases throughout the year so that you're not locking in prices that in 18 months may not make sense for your business. So if you haven't before, again, you can go to the description box and find the links for my website and wherever you're listening to this. They're in every episode, okay? And you can find my ultimate pricing guide. It's also on my Instagram if you click the link in my bio, or if you click, I think it's called the resources highlight on my Instagram. You can find a link for that. It's $27 for the PDF, and then you can purchase the training videos. And I walk you through it, how to double check your numbers, how to make sure that you're always pricing yourself appropriately, how to make sure that you're being profitable, how to make sure that you're being sustainable, and then how to do these price increases. So don't just do it once a year, do it in November, and then everything kind of crashes and slows down, and you're suddenly like, I raised my rates too much, I screwed up, and then kind of try and backtrack. Don't try and do like a Black Friday sale or whatever, or don't try and do the whole promotion of lock in your rates now. I don't recommend any of that. So if you're somebody who's questioning your prices, totally check out my ultimate pricing guide, because you won't do this to yourself every November. And it took me a really long time to figure that out. And then once I figured out how to make sure that I was doing price increases properly and throughout the year, I was like, oh, okay, it doesn't matter if I raise my rates in November and then whatever, I know when I need to raise my rates, when it makes sense for my business. And if I raise them in November and I need to raise them again in January because I've hit the thresholds that I know that I need to hit before I get another price increase, well then cool, I did it really fast this year. I did it really fast this time. But if it takes me 6 months to reach that threshold, cool. That's now going to be a data-driven decision versus an emotionally based decision, which is what today's episode is about. Okay, we're going to be talking about how to not get in our head about things and not use our emotions to decide whether or not what we did in our business is a good idea and whether it works, or whether we did something stupid and we need to go back and we need to fix it. So let's get into today's topic a little bit deeper, and the steps and the things that I think you should be doing and focusing on in your business so that you're making better business decisions. Okay, so the very first step is to get clear on your goals, okay? You can't make better business decisions if you don't have benchmarks and a goal that you want to reach. You need to be specific, okay? It's not just about, I want to book more brides for next year. Do you want to book more brides for 2024? Do you want to book more brides for 2025? How many more brides? And do you actually want to book more brides, or do you want more money? Okay, so and now if you take a look at that and you're kind of like, there's a difference? Yeah, there's a difference. And it's really going to impact the decisions that you make for your business. Do you want to do more work? Do you want to see more physical clients? Or do you just want more money? So getting clear on your goals will help you decide, well, what are the actual steps that I needed to take to get to that goal? If your goal is more bookings, okay, more physical weddings that you're actually doing, all right, now you're going to make more decisions that get you closer to that goal. You're going to break that goal down and say, okay, if I want more weddings for 2024, how many more? How many was I already booking? How many do I already have for 2024? Where are my openings? Where's my availability? All right, where am I getting more inquiries? Do I need to maybe close down some dates to free up some space? You're gonna really just kind of evaluate, and then you're gonna take a look at your process and say, all right, what worked for booking so far? What worked in 2023 that got me a lot of bookings? Or was there something that slowed the process down and I'm not getting as many bookings? Whereas if your focus is, I just want to make 20% more in 2024, okay, well then it's more about your pricing than it is about the number of weddings that you need to book. All right. If you're happy and you're at a threshold where you're like, this is a good work-life balance. Like, I don't want to do more than 35 weddings next year or 50 weddings or whatever that is. Once you are able to say, okay, I have 5 spaces left, I could only take 5 more weddings. All right. You're hitting that threshold. You are not so focused on every booking coming in, booking them. You're going to be like, oh, I'm going to evaluate a little bit more. I can only take 5 more weddings. Do I really want to work with this person, kind of thing? And you make different decisions based on what your goals are. Whereas if you're like, well, I want to make more money overall, you might start implementing my price increase system where you're like, okay, I want to do 40 weddings. I need to make 20% more than I did. It's not just I need to raise my prices by 20%. You may need to decide, okay, I'm going to raise them by 20% at the beginning, but I'm going to maybe have a different threshold for my minimums so that you don't have anything that's small taking away. Because 20% increase is not exactly the same thing, okay? Unless I do 5 people for a wedding every single time and that's it. Like if you have one price, one package price, then yeah, increasing that by 20%, sure, that'll make you 20% more if you do the same number of weddings. But not every number of weddings is going to have, not every wedding is going to have the same number of people. So just by raising your 20%, your prices 20% doesn't guarantee that overall you're going to make it. So you might make a decision about your minimums instead. There's a lot of different ways to kind of look at things without going too much into pricing or whatever. Definitely check out the pricing guide. But knowing what your goal is can help you figure out, well, what are the actual steps that I need to get there? Do I want more actual work? Do I want more money? Do I want to post less on Instagram, but still have the same inquiries and same number of bookings that I do? Or do you want to say, all right, I want to focus more on building my network? Get really clear on your goals, and then you can break those goals down into the actual steps. And then we can get into step number 2, which is to start collecting data related to those goals. So, for example, if your goal is to have more inquiries that come from networking versus what you did in 2023. So say you have 10 inquiries that came in that said that they found you through a preferred vendor list or through somebody else. And you're like, okay, I really want to get more people who are saying they found me on preferred vendor lists or, from their venue or was referred by their photographer or whatever. What do I need to do? Well, you probably need to work on building up those relationships. How many did you get? How many more do you want to get? Okay, so you get your data, you set your goal, and then you go, okay, well, how many times did I build new relationships in 2023 that led to those 10 referrals? If they were all really from the same 1 or 2 people and you want to get more next year, then you know what? It's pretty easy to just make a couple of more really good connections. What do you need to do to make good connections? Do you need to go to more networking events? Do you need to get more social on social media and spend more time engaging with other wedding vendors online versus putting out reels or TikToks, focusing on trying to get more likes and views from brides? Can you put the same amount of time into your Instagram, but shift the focus into building relationships with vendors? Okay, that's going to work for you like twofold because you're going to be putting out stuff on Instagram. So it's still going to maintain consistency on Instagram, but it's also going to really start to build relationships with vendors. Maybe you join a local networking group that meets together once a month. So even though I don't do weddings anymore, I still go on Tuesdays and I network with other wedding vendors in my area. I share my insights. I glean information from them about the wedding industry that I can turn around and I can share with you guys and stuff like that. So building up a relationship with those people, even though I'm not doing weddings, I still find it very beneficial for me You could do the same thing. 1 day a month for an hour, 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, depending on how really into it you get and what the group situation is kind of like. Can you do that? And then you don't know who you could possibly meet from there. You could get an opportunity to work with a client that like is your dream client. And now you've just made this new connection where their dream clients are your dream clients, and you can start kind of cross promoting. Okay. Would you maybe get an opportunity to collaborate with them on their Instagram or participate in a styled shoot? Or there's so many little things that can just really kickstart and build and grow that isn't just necessarily going to be, okay, I'm going to get some more referrals. Okay. So kind of look at your goals. What did you do? Break it down into steps so what you can figure out what you need to do for the upcoming year to get more growth in that specific area. One of the important parts of collecting and tracking your data is understanding where your leads are coming from and then understanding the quality of those leads. Okay, you might be getting a lot of leads from Instagram, but if a lot of them are not booking, it doesn't matter. If you have 50 inquiries that come in every single month from Instagram, but you only end up booking 5, that's 90% of them are a bad quality lead. So that should be an indicator that there's something that's not connecting. You're finding the wrong people on Instagram. You're finding brides and they're reaching out, but if they're not moving through the booking process, they're not the right ones for you. So it's time to shift your content. It's time to shift your focus so that you are reaching out to better people. Okay, so if you're doing something and you're getting a lot of results, you might think that it's really working for you because you're being driven by the emotion surrounding that result. Okay, you're driven by the emotion that those likes are giving you, those dopamine hits of a lot of people are liking or they're watching your reels or they're sharing them. And that kind of just like gives you that dopamine hit of like, yes, all right, I'm doing really good and people like what I'm doing. But if that's not translating into actual bookings for you and income, that's a lot of work and that's a lot of time that you are spending on something that's not actually moving the needle forward in your business. So if you look at the data and say, okay, these are how many people that found me through Instagram and actually ended up booking, you can start to evaluate, is what I'm actually doing working for my business, or is it just giving me this emotional satisfaction? All right. And then you can make those decisions based on actual numbers instead of emotions. When you have that data, you can evaluate and you can make a better plan. Is that data telling you that what you're doing is working and to expand on that and to continue doing that? Or is that data telling you, actually, this isn't getting the result that you want? So that's a waste of time. So either let's eliminate that or let's change that. Is it something that's supporting a goal that you want for next year? When you are using those data to make decisions, okay, it's really important to take a step back and say, how am I using this data? Am I using it correctly to fuel success, or am I getting bogged down with the emotions attached to this data? Okay, because you can take data and be like looking at it and be like, okay, yeah, I've got this number of whatever, and that number can make you feel really good, or that number can make you feel really bad. And you can end up getting sucked back into the emotional side of things. So just be aware when you are doing that. Are you connecting an emotion to these numbers? Are you feeling happy and satisfied with it? Or are you feeling frustrated and sad by it? Don't get bogged down with the negative feelings, because that doesn't fuel your success if you're focused on it too much. If you're not seeing the results that you want, it can be really easy to get in your head about it and make a decision that doesn't end up helping you in the long run. So when you are making these decisions for your business, you have to look at your business as a long term thing. You can't just look at immediate instant gratification. It may feel like something is not working, and you might see numbers that are telling you this isn't working. That might not mean that you need to get rid of it. It might just mean that there's a little change that you need to make, or you're not looking at things big picture enough. You're too narrowed down. You might be looking too much at like your follower counts or your likes or your engagement and getting bogged down with that. You might be comparing yourself to somebody else and being like, well, my reels don't get as much engagement or likes or views or whatever. I know I keep going back to Instagram because I think that that's just something that in our business and our line of work is just, it fuels a lot of decisions that we make, and it fuels a lot of the emotions that we have around our business. So I kind of keep going back to it as an example. But it's also one of the things that can either give us instant gratification, or we can take a look at things big picture. You may not have gotten as much growth in your followers over this year, or views, or whatever metric you want to track. Okay. But if you're still getting a lot of bookings, does that really matter? Okay, you can get in your head and be like, oh, it's not good enough. But really, is it? Are you being emotional about those numbers, or are you saying, oh, actually, if I look at this number related to it and be like, okay, I actually grew by 25% this year in my following. And the quality of inquiries that I was getting from Instagram not only grew, but the quality was better. More of those people were booking. Okay, that's how, you're making decisions based on the right data versus the wrong data, so to speak. So hopefully that makes sense. But I just want to kind of let you know that, like, don't get too bogged down if the data isn't telling you what you want to see. The whole purpose of going through this exercise and taking a look and evaluating what worked in our business so we can make changes for next year is to see what wasn't working. Okay, so don't let it hold you back. Don't let it bog you down. Don't compare yourself to somebody else. Take a look bigger picture and just be like, is it better than last year? Okay, that's good. That's still good enough. You can make changes and make next year better. You can still use that data to fuel your growth, but don't let it hold you back. So if you want to be in business long term, you really need to look at your business as a long game. Some decisions are just going to have that immediate impact for better or for worse, okay? And others not going to show up for like weeks or months down the road. Like I said about, the networking. You might make a connection with somebody, and 6 months later, you're going to see the fruit from that interaction and from that relationship that you've spent 6 months building up. They might contact you for a styled shoot that gets you published somewhere that accomplishes one of your goals. If you're like, oh, I want to be published on XYZ blog, that networking opportunity could have brought that to you. You never know where these things are going to come from. So look at things long term. Don't just get so bogged down in the immediate gratification of, hey, I spent time making a new connection and nothing has come of it. And it's only been a month, or it's only been 2 months, or whatever. Like, don't just put in the work one time. Sometimes you have to put in consistent little smaller bits of work, showing up for that networking event, being committed to your business. It's the same thing with Instagram. Being consistent is going to build your following much better than having 1 or 2 reels go viral. You might get an influx of people, but if they don't stick around and they unfollow you, or they don't engage with you because they only like that one piece of content that you put out instead of all the content that you put out, that's actually going to hurt you in the long run because your engagement numbers are going to go down. So when you put out new pieces of content, Instagram isn't going to push it. Okay, so you got to take a look. What are the actions that I'm taking long term? What is the potential for them? And am I doing enough? Am I trying to just do something once and expecting it to be the magic key to my business? Changing your Instagram bio, that's not going to suddenly get you a bunch more followers. Having a reel go viral is not going to make you Insta famous. Making one networking connection at an event isn't going to suddenly put you on their preferred vendor list. Like, long term, guys, we got to look at all the little actions. How do they put together to build this business? A foundation isn't built with one brick. It's lots of little bricks. How do those bricks connect? And are you taking time to build it slow and strong? Or are you just trying to rush? Are you just trying to get all the bricks to build a big, building or build a big wall or whatever, but you're not taking the time to make sure that everything is placed really strong and supported and supporting each other? It all works together. So that's really it for this week. I want to leave you with one little other thought. It's the time of year where we are evaluating our business and figuring out what worked and what didn't. And sometimes we can get in our own heads about how good we are as a business person, or how good we are as a hairstylist or as a makeup artist. Before I go, I want to leave you with one little final thought. When we are going through our business and we are evaluating what worked really well last year, what didn't really work, and we're taking a look at our numbers, remember to use it to lift yourself up. Focus on the positives. Don't let yourself get too weighed down with the negatives. Okay? For a quick example, my podcast here that you're listening to or you're watching. So Spotify does an Unwrapped for podcasters, and it gives you different numbers and different metrics. And I was listed as the number one podcast for 19 of my listeners, that I was the number one podcast that they tuned in for and listened to. Now, to some podcasters, that might be like absolute shit. They might be like, oh my God, that sucks. You're only the top podcast for 19 people. But instead, I choose to look at that number and be like, wow, there's 19 other human beings out there who appreciate and love what I do and what I have to say so much that I'm the number one podcast that they tune in for. I've had somebody who reached out. I posted this in my Instagram stories, and I had somebody who was like, I don't even listen to podcasts, but I listen to yours. So I know that I am one of those 19 people. She was like, I don't listen to anybody else. I don't listen to podcasts. That's not my thing, but I tune in every week to listen to yours. And I choose to focus on those kinds of things. You may see small numbers, but remember that behind every single number, there's a human being. I can say, okay, cool. This year it was 19. Next year, I want it to be 25, or I want to double that. I want it to be, 40 people. That would be amazing. But I'm still going to celebrate those 19 people. I'm still going to appreciate those 19 people. I'm still going to say thank you. If you were walking through the mall and you had 19 people come up to you and say, I love the way you did your hair. I love your makeup. I love that shirt you're wearing. You look really pretty. You'd feel fucking amazing. You would feel on top of the world. So when you get 19 likes on something, that's the same thing. That is 19 strangers coming up and saying, I like what you did. I like what you created. You're awesome. Okay, so if you had that happen in real life and it would make you feel amazing, why don't you let it still make you feel amazing when it happens online? Just because there's the potential for 1 million people to like what you have to do, does that make those 19 people insignificant? No, they're still human beings. Their opinions are still valid. The fact that they like you is still great. You're still amazing and you're still worthy. So don't let these numbers hold you back. Don't get bogged down in the big numbers that you forget to celebrate the little ones. So thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast. If something that I said has resonated with you, something has touched you in a positive way, if a piece of advice that I've given either in today's podcast or in another one has impacted your business, I would love to hear about it. Please share today's episode on your Instagram stories and tag me. I love to know who I'm reaching. I want to know, are you one of those 19 people? Did you see that? Let me know. That would really totally just absolutely make my day. As always, if you go on to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever and leave me a review, please post it to your Instagram stories and tag me. I don't always see those when they come in. Every once in a while, I have to kind of just go in and remind myself to check and see if there's anything new. So share it to your Instagram. Let me know. It lights me up every day. And if you have the holidays coming up and it's a heavy time of year for you, like it is for me, I just want to say you're not alone, and I love you, and thank you so much for joining me. I will see you back next week, whether it's in person here on YouTube or just in your car or in your ears while you're working or driving or, building your business, building your empire. Thank you so much for having me be a part of your life. I will see you next time.